The gilded cage, the silk of Juliet's gloves itched against her skin, but she didn't dare fidget. Her father's study smelled of cigar smoke and desperation, the heavy curtains drawn as if to hide their shame. Senator Henry Delacroix paced behind his desk, his polished shoes clicking against the hardwood like a ticking clock. "You're to be married," he said, his voice hollow. Juliet's fingers tightened around her teacup. Married? The word tasted bitter. To Dante Valentine. Her stomach dropped. She knew that name. The papers called him the King of Shadowza, man who built empires from blood and whispers. "You can't be serious," she whispered. Her father didn't meet her eyes. "The contracts are signed. The wedding is tomorrow." The teacup shattered on the floor. The ceremony was a mockery. No flowers, no vows spoken with love. Just a judge, eh? Pen and Dante's cold fingers sliding a diamond onto her hand. His touch burned. He didn't speak as he led her to the car, his grip firm on her waist. The drive to his estate was silent, the night swallowing them whole. When they arrived, the mansion loomed like a prison, all sharp angles and impenetrable. Stone, her new husband, didn't look at her as they ascended the stairs. The bedroom door closed with a soft click, and Juliet's breath hitched. Dante finally turned, his dark eyes raking over her. "You're trembling." She lifted her chin. "I'm not afraid of you." A slow smirk curled his lips. He stepped closer, his fingers brushing the nape of her neck. "You should be." His kiss was a brand, hot and demanding. She gasped, and he took advantage, his tongue sweeping into her mouth. Her body betrayed her, arching into his touch as his hand slid down her back, gripping her hips. "You're mine now," he murmured against her lips. She wanted to hate him, but when he laid her on the bed, his touch turning unexpectedly tender as he undressed her, she couldn't suppress the shiver of anticipation. The last thing she saw before the world dissolved into pleasure was the flicker of something raw in Dante's eyes. Not cruelty, but hunger, and God help her, she hungered too. The morning light was unforgiving. Juliet woke alone, sheets tangled around her legs, the scent of Dante still clinging to her skin. She sat up, wincing at the dull ache between her thighs, a reminder of the night before. The room was too large, too quiet. A soft knock sounded at the door. "Come in," she called, pulling the blanket higher. A woman in a crisp black uniform entered, carrying a tray. "Good morning, Mrs. Valentine. Breakfast." Juliet stiffened at the name, Mrs. Valentine. A title she hadn't earned. "Where is?" she hesitated. "Where is Dante?" "Mr. Valentine is in his study. He asked not to be disturbed." The woman set the tray down and left before Juliet could ask anything else. She explored the estate like a ghost, drifting through gilded halls lined with art too expensive to touch. Every door was heavy, every window barred with ornate iron, a cage, no matter how beautiful. Then she found the door. At the end of the west wing, a single door stood slightly ajar. Unlike the others, it bore no decoration, just dark wood and a heavy lock. Juliet reached for the handle. "Don't." She spun around. A man leaned against the wall, arms crossed. He was young, with sharp features and a smirk that didn't reach his eyes. "Luca," he introduced himself, Dante's right hand. Juliet lifted her chin. "It's just a door." Luca's smile faded. Some doors stay closed for a reason. A chill ran down her spine. Dinner was a silent affair. Dante sat at the head of the table, his gaze distant, his fingers tapping restlessly against his wine glass. Juliet stabbed at her food. "What's behind the door in the west wing?" The glass stilled. Dante's eyes darkened. "Shouldn't wander." "I live here now," she shot back. "Or am I just another possession to be locked away?" The air turned electric. Dante stood, his chair scraping against the floor. In 2 strides, he was in front of her, his hand gripping her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Careful, little wife," he murmured. "Some curiosities are better left." "Alone?" She jerked free. "Or what? You'll punish me?" A muscle twitched in his jaw. Then, without warning, he hauled her up, pressing her against the wall. His body was a furnace, his breath hot against her ear. "Maybe I will." His mouth crashed onto hers, rough and demanding. She gasped, her hands fisting in his shirt. Torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer, when he finally pulled back, his voice was raw. "Don't test me." She was trembling. Not from fear, from something far more dangerous later. She found him in the library, a glass of whiskey in hand. Staring into the fire, Juliet hesitated, then sat beside him. Dante didn't look at her. "Go to bed." "No." Script tightened on. "The glass? You don't take orders well, do you?" "Not from men who think they own me." A bitter laugh escaped him. "But I do own you." She reached out, her fingers brushing his. To her surprise, he didn't pull away. "Then why do you act like I own you?" "Shh," she whispered. Dante went utterly still for the first time. She saw something flicker in his eyes, not anger, fear. The fire had burned low by the time Dante finally spoke again. "Want to know what's behind that door?" His voice was rough, like gravel dragged over glass. Juliet held her breath. "Yes." Dante drained the last of his whiskey and stood. "Then, follow me." The West Wing was colder than the rest of the house, the air thick with the scent of old wood and something faintly metallic. Dante's steps were silent as he led her to the forbidden door, his fingers pausing on the handle. "You asked for this," he warned. Then he pushed the door open. The room was small, dimly lit by a single lamp. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary study bookshelves, a desk, a leather chair. But then Juliet saw the photographs. Dozens of them, pinned to the walls. A woman with dark hair and Dante's sharp cheekbones, a younger Dante, smiling, beside her, and then a newspaper clipping. Eris found dead in apparent suicide. Juliet's stomach twisted. Who was she? Dante didn't look at the photos. "My sister." The word hung between them, heavy with grief. That night, Dante didn't come to bed. Juliet lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. She had imagined many things: a vault, a prison, even another woman. But not this, not pain. At dawn, she gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen to her surprise. Dante was already there, his sleeves rolled up, his hands covered in flour. She blinked. "Are you baking?" He didn't turn around. "You like almond croissants?" She froze. "You know that?" A shrug. "I pay attention." The scent of butter and sugar filled the air as he worked, his movements precise, almost reverent. Juliet watched, mesmerized. This was a side of him she hadn't seen, the man behind the monster. "Why did you agree to marry me?" she asked. Softly, Dante's hands stilled. "Because your father owed me." "That's not the whole truth." For a long moment, he said nothing. "Then because I recognized the look in your eyes," he admitted. "The same one I had when I lost everything." Her breath caught. Later, they walked through the garden. The silence between them less suffocating than before. Juliet hesitated, then slipped her hand into his. Dante stiffened, but didn't pull away. "You don't have to hide from me," she said. His fingers tightened around hers. Habits are hard to break. The stars above them glittered like shattered glass. Without thinking, Juliet stepped closer, her body swaying into his. Dante looked down at her, his gaze unreadable. "Right. Are you doing?" "Dancing," she whispered. There was no music, just the rustle of leaves and the unsteady rhythm of their breaths. Then Dante's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her flush against him. His other hand cradled the back of her neck, his thumb brushing her jaw. "This is a bad idea," he murmured. She smiled probably. And then he kissed her slowly, deeply, as if he had all the time in the world. This time there was no anger, no possession, just want. And for the first time, Juliet kissed him back without hesitation. The kiss lingered between them like a promise or a warning. Juliet pulled back first, her lips still tingling, her pulse erratic. Dante's eyes were dark, his breath uneven. For a moment neither spoke. The garden around them felt too vast, too exposed. Then the moment shattered. Luca appeared at the terrace doors, his expression grim. "Dante, we have a problem." Dante's grip on Juliet tightened instinctively before he released her. "What is it?" "Victor Crane is here." A shadow passed over Dante's face. Take Juliet upstairs. Juliet bristled. I'm not a child to be. Hidden away, Dante turned on her, his voice low and lethal. No. She had never heard that tone before, not even on their wedding night. It wasn't a request. It was an order from a man who knew violence intimately. Luca guided her inside. But not before she caught a glimpse of a sleek black car rolling up the driveway. The bedroom door locked behind her. Juliet paced, her mind racing. Who was Victor Crane? An enemy? A rival? Dante's past was a maze of half-truths, and she was tired of being kept in the dark. She pressed her ear to the door. Muffled voices echoed from downstairs, Dante's calm, deliberate tone, and another. Man's, sharp with venom. You thought you could just forget Valentine after what you did? A crash? Glass shattering? Juliet's stomach lurched. Without thinking, she grabbed the fireplace poker and wedged it against the door handle, forcing the lock to give way. The hallway was empty. She crept downstairs, her bare feet silent on the marble. The study doors were ajar. Inside, Dante stood, facing a man with silver-streaked hair and a smile like a knife. Victor Crane. You took everything from me, Crane hissed. Now I'll return the favor. Dante didn't flinch. Leave her out of this. Crane laughed, too late. Then he turned. Saw Juliet in the doorway. Dante moved like lightning, shoving Crane back and stepping between him and Juliet. Run, he snarled at her. But Crane was faster, lunged, a glint of metal flashing in his hand. Juliet didn't think. She grabbed a crystal decanter from the sideboard and swung. It connected with Crane's temple with a sickening crack. Staggered, blood streaking down his face, his eyes wide with shock, Dante didn't hesitate. He disarmed Crane in one brutal motion, twisting the knife from his grip and slamming him into the wall. You touch her, he growled, and I'll bury you alive. Luca appeared, dragging Crane away as he spat curses. The door slammed shut, leaving silence in its wake. Juliet was shaking. Dante turned to her, his chest heaving, his knuckles split, and bleeding. I told you to stay upstairs, he said hoarsely. She lifted her chin. And I told you I'm not something you can lock away. For a heartbeat, they just stared at each other, two storms colliding. Then Dante crossed the room in 3. Strides in, crushed her against him. His arms were iron around her, his face buried in her hair. If he had hurt you, Juliet clung to him, her fingers digging into his back. He didn't. Dante pulled back just enough to look at her. His thumb brushed her cheek, smearing a drop. Of Crane's blood? You're reckless, he muttered. She smirked. You're welcome. Something wild flickered in his eyes. Then his mouth was on hers, hot and desperate, his hands gripping her like she might vanish. Juliet kissed him back just as fiercely, her body melting into his. The adrenaline, the fear, the fury, it all burned away, leaving only raw, unfiltered need. Dante broke the kiss only to lift her into his arms, carrying her upstairs without a word. The bedroom door kicked shut behind them. Clothes were torn away, hands roaming, teeth scraping skin. There was no gentleness tonight, only hunger. Only the primal urge to feel alive. Dante pinned her to the mattress, his voice a ragged whisper against her throat. Tell me to stop. Juliet arched into him. Never, he groaned, his control snapping. The world narrowed to the slide of skin on skin, the bite of his fingers on her hips, the way he whispered her name like a prayer. Later, when the storm had passed, Dante gathered her against his chest, his heartbeat steady under her ear. Juliet traced the scars on his ribs, old wounds, long healed, but never forgotten. Tell me about him, she murmured. Tell about Crane. Dante exhaled slowly. Another time. Didn't push. For now, the weight of his arms around her was enough. Dante was gone when Juliet woke. The sheets beside her were cold, the imprint of his body already faded. She sat up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes, when she noticed the note on the pillow. Meet me in the West Wing. Her pulse jumped. The door was unlocked this time. Juliet pushed it open, stepping into the dimly lit room. Dante stood by the window, his back to her, shoulders tense. The photographs of his sister still covered the walls, but now a new item sat on the desk, a worn leather journal. "You wanted the truth," he said without turning. "Here it is." Juliet approached slowly, her fingers brushing the journal's cracked spine. "You don't have to do this." Dante let out a hollow laugh. "Yes, I do." She opened the journal. The pages were filled with Dante's handwriting, sharp, angry strokes detailing a past she could barely comprehend. "Father sold her to pay his debts. I was too weak to stop it. They found her body in the river. The note said she couldn't live with the shame. Crane was the one who arranged it, and I let it happen." Juliet's throat tightened. Dante. It finally turned, his face stripped bare of its usual mask. The raw agony in his eyes stole her breath. "I swore I'd never let anyone else suffer like she did," he said hoarsely. "Then I bought you like cattle, just like him." Juliet crossed the room in 2 strides, cupping his face. "You're nothing like them." His hands gripped her wrists, not to push her away, but to anchor himself. "I don't deserve you. Maybe not," she whispered, "but you have me anyway." Victor Crane struck at dawn. Juliet was in the garden when the first shot rang out, shattering a vase beside her. She dropped to the ground, heart pounding. As armed men swarmed the estate, Dante burst through the terrace doors, gun in hand, dragging her behind him. "Luca, secure the east wing." Chaos erupted. Juliet had never seen Dante like this, a feral, calculating force, moving with lethal precision. But Crane had come prepared. A second shot, Dante grunted, his shirt blooming. "Crimson, no," Juliet screamed, catching him as he stumbled. Crane emerged from the smoke, grinning. "Poetic, isn't it? Him dying for a woman he never deserved." Rage burned through her. She lunged for Dante's fallen gun, but Dante moved faster. With a snarl, he tackled Crane to the ground. The fight was brutal, bone against bone, years of hatred unleashed. Then a single gunshot. Silenced. Crane slumped, lifeless. Dante staggered to his feet, blood dripping from his side, his eyes locking onto Juliet. She ran to him, her hands pressing against the wound. "You idiot, you could have died." Dante caught her face, his thumb smearing dirt across her cheek. "Worth it." Then he kissed her, hard and desperate, as the sirens wailed in the distance. The police asked too many questions. Dante's lawyers handled most of it, spinning the story into self-defense. By nightfall, the estate was quiet again. The blood scrubbed from the marble floors. Juliet found Dante on the terrace, staring at the horizon, his bandages stark white under his open shirt. She handed him a glass of whiskey. 2 surviving. Took it, his fingers brushing hers. To living. For the first time, she believed him. Epilogued, the West Wing door stayed open after that. Juliet added her own photos to the walls, a shot of Dante scowling as he burned breakfast. Another of them tangled in sheets, laughing. One morning she woke to find the journal gone. In its place, a single sheet of paper. "I love you." 2 words, scrawled in Dante's messy handwriting. She found him in the kitchen, burning toast again. Juliet wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing a kiss to his scarred shoulder. "Say it to my face, Valentine." He turned, his eyes softer than she'd ever seen them. "I love you, Juliet." And just like that, the last wall between them crumbled.